Many want us to ignore what the lying governor of Texas is doing, right? He's going all over the place and talking, and just about every other word, just like our former president, he's lying to the American people. Specifically, he's lying to his people because most progressives, most others don't believe what he's saying because they know better. But we have to call it out. We can't let these lies go unanswered. When you let lies go unanswered, you get insurrections like you got in Washington, D.C., where good people do bad things. Good people think that they've been taken advantage of and they act accordingly. Just as well, we could have Texans believing that somehow green energy for them, meaning wind power, solar power, is a bad deal for them because look at what happened to Texas. But it wasn't that Texas had a real issue with power. It was the regulations. It was our structure that allowed the problem. Windmills, we have windmills in Antarctica, we have windmills in Alaska, we have windmills all over the place. And they work fine if the regulations are there to force them to follow the rules. But even our power plants went down, our coal plants went down, our gas plants went down, our oil plants went down. You know why? Because it was their equipment were frozen. The water in was frozen. The gas coming in was frozen. The problem wasn't wind. The wind was a very minor problem. In fact, the windmills that continued to work overperformed. Why did they overperform? Because dense air gives you more bang for each increased speed in the wind flow. That's a physics matter. But anyhow, let's go ahead and listen to Chris Hayes, how he really took down the governor. A necessary takedown for a lying governor that should not be reelected because he is trying to fool his citizens. He's lying to the citizens, and he has simply been incompetent. Check this out.
Real governing failure. And the person at the head of the Texas government took the time to go on Fox News last night to push the big lie that Republicans and right-wing media have been pushing for days. A brazen, jaw-dropping lie that the hippie libs and their clean energy are to blame for the devastation in Texas.
The Green New Deal would be a deadly deal for the United States of America. Texas is blessed with multiple sources of energy, such as natural gas and oil and nuclear, as well as solar and wind. But you saw from what Trace said, and that is our wind and our solar got shut down, and they were collectively more than 10% of our power grid. And that thrust Texas into a situation where it was lacking power in a statewide basis. If the Biden administration is going to try to eradicate fossil fuels in the United States, every state is going to constantly have challenges like what America has seen take place in Texas right now.
That's not true, just to be clear, the idea that wind and solar completely went out and thrust the state into that situation. In fact, the governor was spinning a different tale when he spoke to a local news outlet just before he went on Fox News, not mentioning wind or solar or green energy at all, instead placing the blame on natural gas.
The companies that generate the power, their operations have frozen up or have tripwired and are non-operational. That is the lead reason why there is a shortage of power for the people who are lacking power right now. There is an additional reason causing a lack of natural gas arriving to power generation centers across the state, and that's because the ability to both manufacture and to ship and transport natural gas has been frozen also. It's frozen in the pipeline. It's frozen at the rig. It's frozen in the transmission line.
Natural gas is frozen everywhere. That's a big part of the problem, the catastrophe. That's what he's telling Texans. And he goes on national Fox News to say that it's the Green New Deal. This is the crazy blame game the governor of Texas is playing while his constituents are freezing in their homes without power or heat, some for the third straight day. But to the purveyors of the big lie, Republicans like Greg Abbott and his friends on Fox News, this very real and acute suffering is just a vehicle for their political objections. They are trying to convince Americans that the state of J.R. Ewing and the Houston Oilers, the capital of American fossil fuel extraction, was actually covertly turned into a lefty bastion of green energy while no one was looking, and that's the source of the problem.
So, unbeknownst to most people, the Green New Deal came to Texas. The power grid in the state became totally reliant on windmills. Then it got cold and the windmills broke, because that's what happens in the Green New Deal. You're without power. Millions are still without power tonight.
Yes, while you weren't looking, you hear that quote? Unbeknownst to most people, Texas became some sort of hippie commune, totally reliant on windmills and rainbows and flower power. Totally reliant. He actually said that about Texas. Was it unbeknownst to the Republican leadership of the state, who have occupied nearly every statewide office in Texas for decades? A Democrat has not won statewide in decades? Did Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez 10 years ago at the tender age of 21 parachute into the state of Texas to put up windmills under cover of night? Were she and Al Gore driving through the Permian Basin, secretly unplugging all the rigs? How stupid does Tucker think his audience is exactly? It's just a lie. It's not a dishonest mischaracterization or spin or omission. It's just a straight-out ridiculous lie. Now, Texas does have a lot of wind power. It's true. But wind power makes up only a fraction of Texas's energy in the winter. Governor Abbott said himself, wind and solar only make up 10% of the grid. There are real material consequences here, as so many people go into a third freezing night. The immediate priority must be figuring out a way to get power and heat to people who desperately need it, as well as clean water, amidst a severe weather event and infrastructure that is simply overwhelmed by it right now.
Let me tell you, I don't only do internet media, internet radio, internet videos, etc. I also have the honor of being on the radio, a high-powered FM station, KPFT 90.1 FM Houston. And I am so honored to be actually on the airwaves that belong to us all, that I think before I throw something up into the ethos. I make sure that what I am talking about is not going to hurt somebody, is not going to mislead somebody, because I know behind the mic, and when that stuff hits that 100,000 watt transmitter, I know there are a lot of people listening there. There are a lot of people who trust what they hear coming over these waves, because not everybody is given the honor, the opportunity to use these airwaves that have access to all. And I give that same reverence to our internet audience and our on-air audience. There is a certain something, responsibility, one should feel when there are others listening on the other side and likely accepting that as truth. What Tucker Carlson did, what Governor Abbott is doing, lying is a part of it, but lying in this form that has a material effect not only on today, but on tomorrow and on going forward in what people believe about things that they need, energy, green energy, renewable energy, that is unforgivable. Completely unforgivable. And it is high time that not only Governor Abbott pay for it by not getting reelected, but that Tucker Carlson is taken off the air for misusing that resource that belongs to us all. We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number one, subscribe to our channel, and number two, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.